You are listening to the Global CTE Podcast with your host, Sylvester Chisom.
Welcome, my friend, to another episode of the Global CTE Podcast. I am your host, Sylvester Chisom. This is the place where we want to wrap a blanket of goodwill around the CTE community and share the best, the brightest, the movers, the shakers, the people who are really innovating and making a difference in transforming our students' lives toward success. Today is no different. I have here with me my main man, Danny Martin, the co-founder and CEO of Esposure. Now, let me tell you about Danny. Danny's a visionary and thought leader in the esports industry. And as I said, he's the co-founder and CEO of Esposure Incorporated and professional esports instructor at SMU. He has aided in the professional development of students, interns, and postgraduates. These students have received esports scholarships and employment from acclaimed universities and esports organizations like Central Methodist University, Complexity Gaming, Pacers Gaming, and Mavs Gaming. Furthermore, he has provided opportunities for many esports players to play with professional franchises. Danny's passion for helping others has allowed him to be a sought-after speaker at high schools and universities. In his pursuit of connecting everyone to esports, he maintains relationships with the NBA, NFL, and the music industry. Danny is always ready to talk about esports and is on a mission of helping 20,000 esports enthusiasts by 2025. Danny, welcome to the podcast.
Definitely thank you so much for this opportunity to shed light on our industry and ultimately help educators make keen decisions when introducing gaming and esports to their students. So thank you for this opportunity.
Absolutely. So I want to give just a quick background. I was in Dallas, Texas with the National Black NBA Association for the Leaders of Tomorrow conference. And as one of the highlights, the feature, the highlight of the conference was coming to visit Esposure. And Danny was talking to all of the students from all across the country, shedding light on esports. And I'm like, I had to cut through the line and say, like, Danny, I got to talk to you after this. I know everybody wants your attention right now, but we got to get you on the podcast. So I'm super excited to dive into this, to shed light, like you said, on the Esposure and e-gaming, so people know the opportunities that exist in this. So before we get too far, man, like, tell me your origin story. Like, how do you end up here?
Yeah, for sure. No problem. I started gaming relatively young in middle school and high school. I was really focused in on my game that I can remember was that of NBA 2K. Played a lot of Madden, but you know, as an athlete in high school, 2K was like the perfect game that me and my teammates can play. So I also in high school was really focusing on entrepreneurship. My uncles were really heavy into owning their own companies. And so I just was, during the summer, I was always with them, and I just knew like I wanted to go in some form of business, and entrepreneurship was just, you know, about finding your, at that time, your hustle. What was going to be your hustle? What was going to be your side gig? What was going to be your gig job? And so ultimately I knew when playing sports, I was going to go to college. And when I went to college, I ran track at the University of Texas at San Antonio, UTSA. And I also knew I needed to find an actual degree plan, and that was business. So as a major in business, you know, there was a minor at the time in entrepreneurship. So I knew as to start taking some of those classes that lead up into the entrepreneurship route, I had to find a light bulb moment. And at the time, I was running track, study hall, get your grades, all of that. We were also playing games and pastimes. And it was a point where one of my teammates was at the cafe, and he was just like, man, you know, he was bummed out that his console was inoperable. And I looked and I was like, light bulb moment. Like, if I can fix this console, like I can make some capital, you know, we can continue to play games together. Yeah. But most importantly, like, you know, I can make some capital. I was like, this is lunch money, you know, that I can get. So I told him, I said, hey, if you give me the opportunity to fix your console, I would love it. It helped me learn. And I said, if I fix it, it's great. But if I can't fix it, I'll buy you a new one. And he was just like, yeah, go for
How
it,
how can you turn down that offer?
Yeah, how can you turn that down? So he was just like, go for it. He gave it to me with the quickness. And so I went and tried to fix it. I couldn't figure out how to fix it. So I took it to an actual a repair, a computer repair shop that was like 45 minutes off of campus. And so took it there, and the individual was able to fix it. So I got a chance to look at it, and I was like, okay, all right, I fixed. I can now go to other individuals on campus and try to see if I can get theirs fixed as well. So as a business major, I knew like, okay, I have to, put my nice shirt on, knock on doors, have a good pitch and all of that. And so I did, and I would get shut down quite often because people would not trust me giving me their console to go.
So Daniel, are you going like dorm to dorm, like, hey, is your console broken? I can fix it.
Oh yes, I'm literally like knocking from dorm to dorm, apartment to apartment, and just like, is your console broke? And people will be looking like, no, I'm not going to give you my console. Like, who are you? And eventually I started like getting keen on it, where I'll start getting reviews. So if you did give me your console and I was able to go fix it, I'll ask for a review. And then I was able to insert that review inside of my pitch, and people would be like, oh yeah, you fixed such and such. Okay, I know him. Yeah, all right, cool. I got you. Here's my console. And that's what really let me know, like, this business is what I really want to be able to do. And so ultimately, fast forward, I would leave the actual campus with duffel bags full of consoles over time. And, when someone gives me their console, I can, after learning from the repair individual, I end up like asking for their blessing to take the actual, get the equipment that I needed and put it into my dorm. So now people can actually just come to my dorm and drop off their Xboxes and things like that. And quickly, when I would take someone's consoles apart, I would be like, I'll know what game they're playing, who they look like, when they look like, how good they were at their game based off their accolades on the games. And then I would actively start marketing esports tournaments. So there was no tournaments going on. I was the person on campus where it was just like, if you gave me your console and had Street Fighter in it, I would be like, hey, by the way, I'm hosting a Street Fighter tournament. Prize purse is $200. Tell your friends. And then I was like, wow, like people would actually start coming to my tournaments. And I quickly recognized at that point, you cannot run a tournament by yourself. And you need to actively have people that can have the skills to help you execute that tournament. Because if you are providing a tournament and people are wanting to win money, they take it serious. So you can't mess up on brackets. You gotta be like diligent on every single case and prevent cheating and all of that. And so you can also go at the time to go to Monster and Indeed and find someone with 2 to 3 years of experience in running tournaments, because the industry, this is like 2010, 2011. So, wow. I mean, sorry, 2010, 2011. And so I knew that I was forced to teach people how to help me run tournaments. So if I needed brackets, or if I need someone to update the systems, or if I needed equipment somebody to manage the equipment or manage the flow of gamers, or to market out the tournament, I ultimately had to train them. And so say, hey, here's how you do it. And that's when I recognized there was a huge need in the industry of a talent pipeline and development. And so that's where I just put my mind focused on, is like, how can we create a company that was focused in on developing talent for the industry? And initially it went on to developing gamers, pro gamers, and then we will quickly identify that everyone is not going to go pro. So, but there's this industry is growing from, what we seen at 2011 to now. It's growing, it's compound growth that we're experiencing inside of this industry. And so one of the things that we just knew is that as these pro teams are developing and they're getting so popular, like your FaZe clans, even though you may see the professional gamer, there's still, tens to hundreds of individuals in the background helping those professional gamers, from marketing to management to production, technology, and competition. There has to be a room for individuals to get those jobs, and they have to know that those jobs exist. And as they know that those jobs exist, our job is to develop them, so therefore they can obtain those jobs. And so we just quickly recognized from that college moment that I experienced, that light bulb moment, To fast forward to where we're at right now, it's been the same vision, and it's been to develop individuals to add value into the industry that they already compete in or play in or enjoy or they have a passion for, and then just help them navigate through it. And if they didn't quite want to just go into the industry, the skills that they do develop can be transferable to any industry. And that's what we're recognizing right now. So that's kind of the origin story. And it's been a good long journey, but super fulfilling journey since.
That's so awesome, man. You really took me back for a moment as you were talking about the dorm room. I'm thinking about playing Madden with my roommates and for hours, just thinking about that in the dorm. That's awesome that you recognize that opportunity and found a way. I think it's so important too, man. Like you're saying, you uncovered your passion.
Yes.
And found something that you are willing to just put the hours in and stay dedicated to.
Yes.
And you're finding success in it. For perspective, for someone who may be listening, can you kind of break down the gaming industry? Like what does that look like today so we can kind of level set, market cap, any of that kind of stuff?
For sure. Got it. So right now, the gaming industry is valued at approximately about a $300 billion ARR. And ultimately, when it comes down to it, the gaming industry demographic is approximately 48% women and 52% male. Now, that's typically what people don't expect, but ultimately the esports side of the gaming industry is only 1% of the gaming industry. So you're looking at about a $3 billion ARR. And it's actually heavily skewed towards males. And one of the things that we're trying to change is to give education to that of all genres to notify that, hey, you can be a part of this industry. The gaming industry is also the largest entertainment sector that's both combined over music as well as movies. So combined, gaming is larger than both of them. And so when you think about this, that means if you had to do an actual stat, and you had to say, if you how many gamers in one particular room, you'll get about 90% of individuals that raise their hand saying they game in some type of capacity, whether it's mobile gaming, whether it's computer gaming, whether it's console, whether it's PC gaming. The world games, and ultimately the gaming industry identifies that growth. But from an esports perspective, the esports is the new kid on the block due to the fact that game developers have made games developed games so uniquely to where you can easily identify someone who's really good at Fortnite and someone who's not as good as Fortnite. Someone who can run $3 million in Fortnite and someone who can't win a match in Fortnite. So in this instance, you got a chance to be able to have the developers are like, okay, let me actually add this component, like an esports component to my game, because that same person that can actually win millions of dollars in Fortnite, they are just like LeBron James, but within the gaming industry, and they amass a lot of fans. That's why you start to see individuals with large YouTube channels and Twitch channels. And with a fan base comes attention to the game that they're playing. So if you're a game developer, you're actively looking at the actual implementation of an esports functionality in your game. So therefore, you can attract more eyeballs, which equates to units sold of that game. So the esports industry right now is adding value to the gaming industry. And while it's 1% now, in the next 10 years, it could be 5 to 10% of the gaming industry. So we're seeing a huge amount of growth in both the gaming industry as well as the esports industry because they are actually being able to leverage each other to add value to the prospective user, and that's the ultimate gamer. And what you're starting to see right now is esports pro organizations are, as I stated earlier, they have found great traction during the times when the grassroots scenes was here. And that's the scenes where, like when I was running tournaments in college, like a pro team can go into my tournament and just pick an individual and give them a contract. Well, what's transpiring now is as these organizations are growing, they are enterprises. And so they need the actual talent. And what's hard for them is they can't necessarily just go on the grassroots and then find the talent. They have been, but the talent pipeline is small. So if all the pro organizations are finding the same individuals, it doesn't help when it comes down to identifying new talent. So schools right now are really finding the value of implementing programs, because that's your natural talent pipeline, just like the traditional basketball and football does, when that athlete goes from middle school to high school to college to the pros. Well, we're doing that exact same thing when it comes down to esports. Is really trying to develop that pipeline and introduce programming into schools, and then also giving the opportunity for a parent to say, do I want Timmy to go to a private esports program or a public school esports program? So if you look at it right now, introducing esports into the public school systems is becoming incredibly important, with the perspective of growth that 3 years ago, there was about 25 colleges that offered esports scholarships and programming. And today there's well over 780 schools, colleges, and universities that offer programs. So there is now becoming this pathway. And as a school offers an esports program and a university or college, they're looking to recruit. So where are they going to recruit from? Typically, they're going to want to recruit from a high school. So in this instance, you're starting to see that this whole ecosystem is burgeoning in the actual institutional form. So it's pretty cool to be able to see.
So, man, thank you for breaking that down with such great detail. I know when I was there, you were telling me that one that I didn't even know was in our own backyard. Maryville University is one of the top college programs.
Yep.
I'm curious. So what's that look like at the high school level, the skills, or how do they introduce best practices on introducing esports into CTE programs or wherever you think they should fit?
Yeah, so we had to do the Tesla Elon Musk model, because this industry is such in its infancy stages. Educators were like, I'm asked to do esports, but I don't even know where to start, right. And it's really hard to find a school, because it wasn't that many. And still it still isn't as many. It's good to be able to see the growth, but it still has a long way to go. And so what we end up having to do is, just like Tesla, we had to really leverage our 8,000 square foot esports studio and education center that we have here in Duncanville as like a showcase
Tell
room.
me about that. Tell me about that. Let's talk about it.
For sure. So just like Tesla, they had the actual Teslas in malls and kiosks, and then you can come and touch and see and feel. Then you can go online and actually purchase, and it pops up in your house. Well, for us, it's the same instance. For an educator who's interested in developing a esports program or a club or so, they would actually have the opportunity to come to our facility and learn about the industry and see all the career pathways. So career and technical education really leverages career pathways. And so and programs of study. And so from our perspective, we wanted to build this facility in a way that it showcased all of those programs of studies and career pathways. So like in esports, when we run events, we need to show the career and technical educators that AV broadcasting is involved in esports, entrepreneurship is involved in esports, that of business, that of IT is involved in esports. Tourism, hospitality is involved in esports. So all of those career pathways, we have that in one location. So an educator can then leave with the perspective of like, wow, I can now impact my students in various of ways. And I thought it was just about gaming, but it's actually way bigger than just gaming. And when the educator get a chance to see an event out of our facility, they can see all the students and all the individuals and they're at their jobs putting on this entertainment, just as much as if you were to go to an actual arena to watch an NBA basketball game. You get a chance to see everybody on the court, but you also get a chance to see the lighting directors, the producers, the coaches. You get to see all of that. And so an educator coming to a facility like ours, they get a chance to see it in action. And now they end up knowing like, okay, well, I know that I can bring this into my school. And then from there, that's when we actually have our pathway to pro, where we then support the actual CTE directors or administrators with that of programs, courses, immersive experiences. And they leverage our technology platform as well to be able to do that. So it's really cool. We had to have that space where they can come, see, touch, and feel. as well as allow those same students that are going through our programs to actually have a place to come back after they learn. So therefore they can actually put what they've learned into action and help build their portfolio. So therefore they can be that much more valuable to a job when it comes down to employment.
I want to touch on that. You highlighted while we were there that yes, we have the gamer, professional gamer that's on the table, sitting in the chair, like crushing it. Everybody's watching on YouTube. But you told me that there are over 200 digital careers connected to the gaming industry. Talk to our audience about that so that they can see that clear connection to gaming and career opportunities.
Yeah, for sure. So when you think about esports, think of digital sports, right? And which means that when you're playing a game, you're using the software, and it doesn't rely on your physical stature or your size or anything, or your speed or any of it. It's mental. And so when you're leveraging esports, it's digital, and everything that you use to game, to create an event is software based. So you have your systems that you use, but those systems also have a software within those systems, from a console, Xbox, or such. And everything that we do in esports to put on an event revolves around some software. So career and technical education really relies on certifications. They want the students to get a certification, and there are certifications like Microsoft, Adobe certifications that are aligned with career and technical education. And these are the same softwares that we have to use to complete our tasks, our complete event inside of our facility. So when you think about digital careers, every digital career evolves around some type of knowledge of a software. If we need to control our lights in our facility to the team colors of, one esports team versus the next team, esports team, someone has to use a platform called Onyx, just to be able to operate all the lights. When it comes down to graphic designs, we have to be able to take the images of those players, place them into our production, so therefore the visitors and the spectators can see the personality and see the actual visual elements that of each of the professional gamers on that. That requires Adobe Photoshop. That requires a Premiere to create these these visual movies and things like that, to give a story around these competitive gamers as they compete. And so when you think about these digital careers, you're looking at coaches, you're looking at animators, you're looking at graphic designers, you're looking at marketing specialists, you're looking at game developers, you're looking at producers, you're looking at competitive gamers. All of these careers revolves around running a organization, and specifically our organization that runs events. We understand that these softwares are alongside of all the digital careers, but we also understand that kids, students, high school students, middle school students are learning these softwares as we speak right now. And so we recognize that this is a perfect industry for them because they already are gaming, they're excited about it. Now we also expose them to the actual how to learn a software. If you want to be a professional gamer, that's great. And we have seen over 9 gamers out of our organization turn pro, but everyone is not going to go pro. But if you choose to go that route, guess what? Just like traditional sports, when you actually are competing, you have to, in order to be a good content creator, you gotta learn the softwares. You gotta learn how to use YouTube. You gotta learn the best times to post on YouTube, what captions, what metadata. You gotta be able to engage with your fan base. So you're starting to develop orator skills. You're developing skills that allows you to speak professionally. And that's just to help you really be able to maximize your opportunity to be a pro gamer. Now, let's say you don't make it as a pro gamer. You still can rely on all of those skills in any industry. So it's really cool to be able to say, yes, you could try to shoot for the moon and go be a professional gamer because I know that's fun and that's what you want to do. But just in case you don't, here's all the other skills that you have to be able to land on. And those are the skills that jobs all across the world are looking for when it comes down to it. And so these skills you can learn in high school, in middle school, in college, and you don't have to wait until you get out of school to be able to get these to develop these skills.
100%, man. Wow. Thank you for sharing that in such detail. You're making me think about, I saw you just posted something on LinkedIn
Yeah.
about your summer esports immersion program.
Yes.
And before you go too deep in it, I think it's kind of funny that we hear like parents say like, oh, you may not be able to go pro to be a professional basketball player, but you said each one of these NBA teams now have their own like
Yes.
esports team that
Yep.
they're hiring esports players. Can you go there? And then I
Yeah.
want to talk about your immersion program.
Yeah. So it was pretty interesting because in 2016, NBA 2K launched a functionality called Pro-Am, which was the first time that a sports game had 5v5 competition. Typically, when you play sports games or a lot of games, they're 1v1.
Right.
And so that was always the big hiccup for me to help grow the sports scene in the gaming perspective, because they always were 1v1. So the type of reach wasn't there. So in 2K16, when it launched, I was like, we're going to run some awesome tournaments because this is going to be the first time that we can do 5v5 competition. And we did. We ran tournaments. I literally was in I had a basement in downtown Dallas, and I converted it into an arena that we have right now. And we allowed gamers to come and travel, compete, because they were stoked because they've been playing online 5v5 for 2K16. And now I'm telling them, like, you come to my facility and you can play in person 5v5. So it's almost like going to a digital pickup game. And they would love it. And so the people would travel from all different states and stuff just to come to the facility. And 2 years after doing that, the NBA announced that they were doing an NBA 2K league. And so at that point, they allowed the actual NBA teams to buy into the NBA 2K league, which at that point it was about I think it was about 17 teams that initially bought in: Mavericks, Atlanta Hawks, Milwaukee Bucks, and today there's approximately about 25 teams that have bought in over the course of 5 seasons. And so at that point, these individuals have a normal season. They travel from arena to arena. They get paid approximately about $60,000 from a salary perspective. They get free housing, healthcare. They are employees of the NBA, so their emails are such and such at nba.com. So these players that are playing 2K, they now gone pro, and now they work for, they're employees of the NBA. So for them, it's like a dream come true. We've seen 7 of our professional gamers that come through our program that's in the NBA 2K league. So it's like this full circle moment, and it's just a really cool opportunity for these individuals who once was playing the game out of fun to now actually do it as a career. And we've been lucky to have like one of those individuals who played with us before the 2K league was announced. He ended up getting drafted, and his name was Ryan Cogner. And he ended up winning 2 NBA 2K League championships, and each 2K League championship is approximately like $2.5 million. So he ended up winning 2 back-to-back seasons, and he actually is like, hey, I can retire. He retired and ended up being the head coach of one of the esports pro teams, and out of Mavericks. He went to Wizards DG in Washington DC, and now he's the head coach of Dallas Mavericks. So basically, he came back home, became the head coach. And for us, we get a chance to be able to highlight to our students to say, hey, this person went pro, he trained, went pro, made capital. Now he's a head coach, and really show that full pipeline that, even he is working in the industry. So don't be afraid to know that your skill sets can. If you don't go pro, you still can work on the industry. So we use that as a really good highlight to teach individuals that there are opportunities. And one day you're going to have to retire, playing the game at the highest level. And where do you fall on? And for him, he fell on coaching because he knows the game. He studies the game. He understands the meta of the game. So it's really, really cool to see. But, there are leagues in esports, from the FGC community, which is fighting game community. That's Street Fighter League, Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, Tekken. You got sports genres. They have the leagues like NBA 2K. You have battle royale shooter games like that of Fortnite and Apex Legends. So all of these actual titles have their communities, and within those communities, there are leagues. And for a lot of them, there are professional leagues where actual owners buy in. We happen to be in Dallas. We happen to be in Dallas, Texas. All the big billionaires like Mark Cuban, Jerry Jones, Neil Lehman, the owner of the Texas Rangers, Ken Hirsch, another owner of the Texas Rangers, they all have esports pro organizations. Optic is Ken Hirsch, Jerry Jones is Complexity, and Mark Cuban is Mavs Gaming. And so when it comes down to it, this is a great opportunity for those pro organizations to really gain attraction to that of the younger audience, and ultimately leveraging that opportunity to be able to, cross market to say, hey, by the way, we have an esports pro team, but you also can learn about, our pro players on the traditional side and come attend the games and things like that. Because they feel like if they didn't engage with the younger, they would lose that audience. And I believe like baseball is kind of feeling that right now, where the educational targeting the younger individuals wasn't as much. So it's like, how can they find them? And so these organizations are recognizing that they need to figure out ways to be able to keep, engagement with the new generations and what they're interested in. And so that's why you see a lot of, owners are invested in esports or organization.
Let me, wow, that's super interesting. And that's hats off to you to have someone come through your program and then just crush it.
Yeah.
And then come full circle, come back home. So let me go back to that right now. For the summer, you're hosting a group of students and you connected them with is your immersion program, and they connected with the Mavs esports team, right? Talk to me about the immersion program and them getting that real life experience there.
Yeah, for sure. So there's several aspects to this. So one of the biggest aspects is that we worked with our local independent school district, so Dallas ISD. So Dallas ISD is the second largest ISD in Texas, and they have approximately about 160,000 students, and about 70,000 of those students are a part of the career and technical educational program. So we work directly with Dallas ISD CTE. We were actually, as an esports entity, we were named the industry partner of the year with Dallas ISD, maybe 2-3 weeks ago, which means for them, they see that esports aligns with all of their career pathways. And as our company, as a more developmental company, they can leverage our experiences to help their students. So they recognize right on that this is a great alignment. So if you are a career technical education teacher out there, really look at how Dallas ISD is leveraging esports, and you will find that we are being engaged with the actual students on a consistent basis. So with that, Dallas ISD provided us, we pulled 12 interns specifically from Dallas ISD to work with us during the summer. And they get paid like $22 an hour. And we went into the community and we had about 150. So Dallas ISD interns were high school students. And so we did a summer camp in our community with 150 middle school students. And so what we ended up doing is we had an actual 8-week camp where the students came to our facility 2 times a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, for about 3 hours each time. And on Tuesdays, we work with Epic Games to facilitate an actual Rube Goldberg experience where the students get a chance to understand game development, and they build their contraptions like Mousetrap. And at the very end, they would do a pitch to showcase who has the best actual contraption, which introduces them to game development. And on Thursdays, we did an esports triathlon, which allowed the students, those same groups of students, get a chance to play Fortnite, accumulate their points, and then play Rocket League, accumulate their points, and then play NBA 2K. So that experience that you've seen was the last week where they finalized with NBA 2K. And because we have such a great partnership with the Esports Pro organization, Mavs Gaming, plus also with Dave Fry being the head coach,
Yes,
it was a great opportunity to expose the students to the career pathways while also allowing them to play against a professional gamer, and a team
gamer, yeah.
like that's unreal, So so for that experience, we got a chance to say whoever had the best, points at the very end, get a chance to compete in like a mini tournament, and whoever wins that mini tournament gets the chance to compete against the actual pros in that particular game. So it was unmatched. The energy was there in the room. But the main thing is over that 8-week experience, those interns that were Dallas ISD, from the time they got there, they have been working our events. So they got a chance to work our pro events. They got a chance to work our community events, from lighting to content creation to production to AV broadcasting, shoutcasting. And so on that day that you've seen, everyone that was working that put on that event were Dallas ISD interns. So that means they put on a full event for the campers that are in middle school, and they got a chance to put that on their portfolio because now they get a chance to say, we ran an event, we did X, Y, and Z, and it was for the Dallas Mavericks. And so now they're in high school with something on their portfolio. So going into the next school year, they can leverage that and start using that to go source jobs or take that to colleges that they may want to go or attend. So this is like full on experience for them that gets them a leg up when it comes down to employment. So our interns worked that event. The students got a chance to compete with their favorite esports pro players. As a company, we got a chance to facilitate it. We got a chance to partner, make a stronger partner with our local professional teams, Dallas Mavericks. So it was just a full encompassing type of event, which was really, really awesome.
That's so cool, man. Hats off to you for making it real. Like when I'm talking to educators across the country, man, it's like, how do you make it real and experiential? Yeah. And keeping the important learning that can create future opportunities for these kids at the forefront. Yes. Like you really have me thinking like gaming is one of the greatest opportunities to do that and prepare kids for careers of the future today and the future.
Exactly.
Question. Okay. So while we were there, one of the biggest things, I don't know if you saw it, but like once you introduced the shoutcaster opportunity, like everyone wanted to do the shoutcaster. So I'm just tell the audience what skills or what makes a great shoutcaster. I'm curious what you would say for that.
Yeah, for sure. So one, the skills that you need is an understanding of the game. And when you think of shoutcasting for the audience, shoutcasting is another term for commentating. So for a shoutcaster, it's important to understand the game because a lot of individuals in the audience, let's say Timmy is like a really good gamer, he invites his mom and dad. Well, his mom and dad in the audience may not know what Fortnite is or League of Legends, and they looking at a screen, they have no idea. So a shoutcaster narrates it for them. So by that time, they're like, oh, I get it, and so that's the purpose of a commentator. That's the purpose of a shoutcaster. As well, from a career and technical education perspective, it aligns with AV broadcasting. So Dallas ISD has an AV broadcasting track within their actual career pathways. And so for a student to learn how to hold the camera for shoutcasting or get on the actual camera to talk about the game, that aligns with commentating, shoutcasting, this is a great opportunity. And what you'll find is it's an awesome opportunity that students love to do because it gets them on camera. They get to talk in front of their peers. They get a chance to, be funny, be laid back, be very intelligent, talk about their passion. They know the game. They know what's going on in the game. They play the game. So they get a chance to say, hey, this person just made this shot. This shot is very, very hard in this particular game, NBA 2K. And so also they get they get the support of their friends, their peers, because their peers get a chance to see them and acknowledge that they are good at something. Everyone wants to be known for being good at something. And so for a gamer, typically they're kind of behind the scenes. So a shoutcast, and what you've seen is everybody was like, yeah, I want to shoutcast. Can I shoutcast? Because it gives them opportunities to showcase, that they're good at something. And that's always another pathway. And 9 times out of 10, a gamer will say, man, I don't want to be a professional gamer. I want to be a shoutcaster. This is really fun, And so you got a chance to see it. And that's what elevates the experience. So somebody can be on the stands and watch someone play the game. But when you bring that shoutcaster just turns the energy up and it just gets everyone pumped up. Like when you guys had the event, I knew it was intense. I knew it was like really, really awesome. When you guys as admins were cheering on and pumping up the students, I was like, oh, this is insane, and the shoutcast was like, give it up for this person. And the admins that you guys were at, y'all was just clap. Oh my God, it was like crazy to be able to see. So that's the element that that's part of those digital careers,
Outstanding, man. I want to hit with this before we leave. Someone may be listening and they're like, okay, well, if I'm in Dallas, or we take a field trip or a trip to Dallas, we can go and visit Esposure. Yeah. But what do you say for any best practices or guidance for a school district or school system who does not have access to an Esposure type of facility to introduce gaming into their curriculum?
So like what we had to do when I'm referenced the Tesla model, we had to build an actual space to bring it all together. So your first thought process is looking at launching or developing or building a gaming lab. And I'm gonna give you an esports lab. I'm gonna give you the reason why you should do that is because that's what's going to help you identify the individuals that's interested. If students can come into that lab, that's them already saying, I'm interested in this. And when they're planned, but at the same sense, what it also forces you to do is buy updated equipment or equipment that's powerful enough for the game. Now, the cool thing about a PC is that, yes, you can game on it, but you also can turn that PC into a graphic designing unit. You can do video editing on that actual unit. You can code, you can game develop on that game. So you're not only just hosting a lab for an esports team to compete, you're also able to use that as a digital career development classroom, which is really good because now you can engage your game development track, you can engage your AV broadcasting track, you can bring it all together with that lab. And then the next point is to start to think about your programming. And so for us, what we've done with Dallas ISD is we've facilitated esports business plan competitions. And so what that does is these students get a chance to work on the business side on building their esports organization. And for a lot of our competitions, they are building an esports tournament where we give them a mock budget. And then at that point, they get a chance to do their incorporations, their document of incorporation. They get a chance to do spatial designs on the floor layouts of their tournament. They get to do what they're going to spend their budget on marketing. They get a full valuation on their actual company that they got to pitch in front of individuals. So it's a good way that you can leverage that actual that lab to do these type of programming and immersive experiences. And then ultimately align your actual programming to certifications like Adobe, like Microsoft, and get these students equipped enough to be able to take these certifications and then actively go to that organization and say, not only do I have a certification, but I also have skills that I developed, which in this day and age, those companies they like the certifications, but they love the actual portfolio that one can show that shows them actually doing something, which is really, really cool. So think about it from that lens. That lab is your hub to bring in your community, to nurture your community. And then while you have that community, you're giving them programming that aligns to the certifications that you already have to ensure that the students obtain.
Man, that's powerful. Thank you for sharing that. I know that's going to be extremely helpful because I see it in some of our curriculum when I'm talking to teachers. We have this thing set up where students get to create their own sports team.
Yep.
Right. And I'll say probably over the last 5 or 6 years, you're starting to see more and more students say, can I create an esports team?
Yep.
And it's like, sometimes that throws the teachers off. They're like, what? I don't even know what that, I don't even know what that is. Like I was thinking soccer or a basketball team, but you said an esports team. What if like somebody listening right now, some of our largest school districts, they may have multiple schools or something. What if they wanted to throw a district-wide school versus school tournament, gaming tournament? Like, how would they go about setting something up like that? Like, is that
Yeah.
they need to find a facility like Exposure to do it, or are there other
I've
ways?
seen it. I've seen it in so many different ways. Specifically speaking on Dallas ISD, they just ran an internal tournament and it had over 1,100 registrants.
What?
1,100 students entered into the tournament from middle school, from elementary to middle school to high school. And it was really cool. And they actually used one of their high schools. So it was pretty cool because the high school for that day or for that 2-day tournament, the classrooms were used as gaming, like there was gaming equipment in the classrooms, the lunchroom, the cafeteria, the gym. The whole school turned into an esports lab, right? So it was really cool to be able to see that the whole school. And, like basically all the schools in the district came to that one high school. And for that 2 days, the rooms were filled with gaming PCs, and they work with a partner to help them facilitate their actual tournament. So I've seen schools do it like that. I also seen schools where they use our facility. So like we work with schools when we do tournaments, they do online. And then like the quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals are done here where the schools bus in from different cities across Texas. And then we host the actual event in our facility. You also can leverage that of associations that are in esports like NASEV. They have a global global network of educators that are in CTE that helps facilitate the actual esports camps and esports events and tournaments. You got other companies like Banta.gg that facilitates esports tournaments with high schools across. Banta is a huge partner of ours. So I would definitely say, look up at Banta.gg, and likely they are already hosting tournaments with your particular school or your district.
Cool.
Yeah, so really just kind of look on that. And those are kind of like some pretty cool resources that are out there when it comes down to courses, curriculum. Granted, you can easily reach out to me, whether it's a tournament, whether it's portfolio building opportunities, whether it's courses. We kind of have the full gambit. So definitely, and if we don't, I can easily point you in the right directions within the industry to help you execute your lab, execute your courses, or just broader knowledge on communicating and networking with other individuals. With some educators just want some industry experts to come in their classroom and talk to their students. Those things can be facilitated as well. So I'm a wealth of knowledge, so just definitely use me.
Yeah, that's you just took my second to last question there. I was going to ask how can people engage with you, but I'm still going to ask you that. But last question, man, before we move forward, because this is something I ask every guest as it relates to career tech education. So I'm curious, like especially from the gaming perspective, I'm super curious what you're going to say. What's your vision for the future of CTE?
Yeah, so what we're seeing even right now that's changed is the more engagement with industry partners. Like school CTE is in its institutional system. And before today, where these educators, where we're seeing jobs that are just popping up and we don't even know what the next jobs are, working with your industry partner really gives you a value add so you can learn those skills that are needed for those, so you can set up those students for success. So there are industry partners that are not as big. I know we think of the Boeings, the Raytheons of the world, the Apples, the Googles, but what we are also recognizing is that education right now is there's a lot of thought process on how education should be to add value to the actual students. And you're finding a lot of organizations like Esposure that have seen that hole in the market and that's fulfilling it. And then we are those industry partners that is of value to you, to give you the expertise, the knowledge, and ultimately the guidance. So therefore, you can give the students what they need right now while they're in your grabs in high school, because it's super important to get them skilled up to obtain these large jobs at these companies like Google, at these companies. And even though we see the big company, like, you got to think for every one large company that you are aware of, there's hundreds of smaller companies that are looking for that same talent. And we just got to be able to make sure that the students understand that they're there and the skills needed to equip them, the skills that are needed to obtain those jobs, and working with industry partners. So I see in the future more CTE departments understanding the value of working with industry partners and really bringing them into the fold. Because there's, no matter where you're going right now, there's just in any industry, there's just a shortness of talent. And so because of the shortness of talent, company CEOs and founders and chief operating officers, they're doing a little bit more groundwork to help fulfill those jobs. And they know that they got to actually add more value to the educational system. So therefore they can equip these students. So therefore they can have a more healthy, more strong, robust pipeline of talent at their particular job. So if this is not the time, I don't know if there's any better time right now to engage with industry partners as a career and technical education. And then if you just need some resource, go to Dallas ISD's Career and Technical, go to their social page. You'll see how they're leveraging Esposure when it comes down to adding value to their students and equipping them for the next wave of jobs.
Outstanding. Industry partnerships. That's a common theme that comes up from the innovators that have come on the podcast, is like how important that is to help create those real experiences and get that early exposure to our students. With that being said, man, Danny, you share so many great resources, insights. I know you've blown some minds here today on gaming. If anyone wants to connect with you, are there ways that they can connect with you and work with you outside of Dallas?
For sure.
Share that and how to connect.
The best opportunity is leveraging LinkedIn. We tell our students, and the reason why LinkedIn is not only you can connect with me, but you can also see all the individuals within our industry that I connect with, that I learn from, that I ask questions from. And LinkedIn provides that opportunity to do that. And so if you link me on, if you add me on LinkedIn and we connect, 9 times out of 10, you're going to find individuals within your communities, within your geographic location, or you get access to the publishers, the developers, the Esports pro organizations that I communicate with on a daily. And that just helps you expand your opportunities to your actual students, because now you can make those partnerships. You can start networking from that perspective. But, if we can't, at Esports, if we can't provide the product or the service, 9 times out of 10, we know who can. So, definitely leverage LinkedIn.
Outstanding. And just, if you can, drop the website. What's the website for people if they want to check you out?
Yes, it's esposure.gg.
Absolutely. Listen, you heard it here. Gaming is the now, is the future. It is a true connector of skills and opportunities for your students. Danny, thank you so much. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend. Do not be selfish with this content. A lot of great information we share here today. And until the next episode, remember, you don't have to be great to get started, but you have to get started to be great. Peace.
Thank you for listening to the Global CTE Podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to be the first to know about future episodes.